Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week I am talking about the first edition of the Aberrant RPG released under White Wolf. Now currently, as of the recording of this video, Onyx Path is running a Kickstarter for a second edition that modernizes the setting, modernizes the aesthetic, and a lot of other things like that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the first edition. This book released in 97 or 98 with this optimism in it. This, we can fix things. Things would have gotten fixed if not for the superheroes in this. They just sped it up. Type view. And that's a really, to me, important part of this. And that's what makes it unique, is that it is still optimistic despite the underlying levels of cynicism in it. So, with that said, I'm going to sit back, relax, and enjoy as I talk about Aberrant First Edition. Before I begin, let me just say, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below. Leave me comments, follow me on Twitter, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to hear me talk about more of in the future. Always looking for ways to help improve the channel. I now have a Patreon. Link in the description. Any support helps keep me in new books to keep the channel going, replace any equipment. Helps keep things going. And with that said, let's just get right on into this, shall we? The year is 2008. 10 years ago, in 1998, an explosion happened in space. The Galatea Research Station, a orbital satellite, manned, carrying a supply of unknown radioactive isotopes for research purposes, blew up. The isotopes got spread around the upper atmosphere and spread around the world. Within hours of that, an event happened in New York City, in the middle of Times Square, so it was televised. A school bus crashed and was on fire. Among the immediate first responders was a New York Fire Department member by the name of Randall Portman. And as he was trying to figure out how to get the kids out, because the bus was on fire, and all the safety exits were blocked, either because of where it crashed or because of the fire. He started getting a really, really severe headache. And the last thing he remembered was seeing the fire rushing at him. And then he comes to kneeling in a crater of melted asphalt. The fire put out, the kids safe. And he became the first publicly known Nova. The people who are the superheroes in the Aberrant setting. And it was televised. Because of course it was. It was Times Square. And this moment, this going from a normal baseline human to a Nova, is called eruption. And his was the first documented eruption. And he earned the name the Fireman. because he was a fireman in full bunker gear going to address a fire. And those were the two inciting events for the world of Aberrant. Oh, it flowed much different from our world. Don't get me wrong, because these events changed so many things. And also, this was released in 1997 or 1998. So this is all looking at a near future. But within months, as more novas began erupting around the world, a society called the Aeon Society reached out to the UN. And this group had a reputation going back for decades, over a century in fact. And they reached out to the United Nations. And they said, look, we can help these people. Let us do it. And so they did. They created a group called Project Utopia. The purpose of Project Utopia was to train novas. It was to help them learn to control their powers so they wouldn't cause issues. And also to figure out what was causing them to become superheroes. And what was discovered was a node, an extra gland in the brain, called the Mazarin-Rochaud node, after the two scientists who discovered it. And this node allows the Aberrant, the Nova, to focus and control the atomic forces. Electromagnetic force, gravity, the strong atomic force, and the weak atomic force. And with these, they can do anything, potentially. There is no limit to what a nova can do. They just have to believe they can do it. And part of the training process at Project Utopia was helping novas develop beliefs in what they can do to expand their abilities, expand their powers. So, in short, most novas, their abilities kind of follow a theme, just because it's easier to connect things that way. And within months of the first novas, the United Nations had released a statement, a philosophical statement, the Zurich Accord. And this accord said, novas are humans. They have all the rights and responsibilities as humans and shall be treated accordingly. Now, in 2005, a nova by the name of Divis Mal issued his own proclamation that novas are to humans as humans are to chimpanzees. That as humans do not follow chimpanzee laws, novas should not follow human laws, and until such time as novas create their own government recognized by all the novas on Earth, each nova should be treated as a government unto him or herself. Yeah. Of course, this led to the formation of a group of novas calling themselves Terrigen. These are the novas who follow the Null Manifesto, what Divis Mal proclaimed. Meanwhile, most other novas fall into one of three groups. Utopians, they work for and help Project Utopia. They research it with, either in Project Triton or in all this other stuff. Team Tomorrow, basically the special action teams of Project Utopia. The people who, oh look, these countries are going to war. Team Tomorrow is going to go over there and stop the war and then make them sit down and negotiate it. And then the third group are mercenaries. They commonly call themselves elites. These, by the way, are the ones who dress in fancy costumes and wear masks. And in fact, among the elites, masks are a huge thing. Because if two elites have a grudge, they won't fight to the death. Like ancient luchadors, they fight to the unmasking. And unmasking is a very difficult thing for a elite to ever come back from, because it's just been proven that another elite is better at fighting than him. And these guys are still mercenaries. So fighting for money is their business. Now, in the intro I mentioned that this was a very optimistic type of period. And what was going on during this time was, in addition to all this stuff, novas were doing stuff like repairing the hole in the ozone layer, negotiating a final peace between Palestinians and Israel, with the creation of a Palestinian state on the southern border of Israel, between Israel and Egypt. Cleaning up pollution. Like, supposedly reducing pollution on Earth to a pre-industrial revolution level. Stopping wars. All that sort of stuff. Fixing the Y2K problem. And just everything like that. They were making the world a better place. Novas whose abilities lent towards technology and thinking and analysis, they were either coming up with new ways to use existing technologies, they were developing revolutionary new technologies, or they were curing cancer, AIDS, and, all these other things. It was a golden age that was being ushered in. And then we come to 2008. The current setting. The current year in the setting as it began. So, at that point, we had three groups. And now a fourth group came into being. This fourth group, another nova, had found some suspicious stuff going on behind the scenes in Project Utopia. And she passed it on to others. And she was killed in Calcutta for finding this information out. Because you see, by this point, It's been 10 years. No nova has had a child. No nova has fathered a child. So, you start asking a question of why. And officially, it's Project Utopia is looking into this because this is odd. But what if in the medicines that they need to help control some of the side effects of the Mazen-Rashad node, painkillers that can work on them, stuff like that. What if in those are laced contraceptives? Thus keeping the novas from being able to have children. And then there's other stuff, because the skirmishes, the hot spots that involve novas fighting and killing each other, as the number of novas who erupt each year continues to accelerate, these little skirmishes increase in number. Meaning more novas are coming into being, but at the same time, there's still a lot of novas who are dying every year. Is this something being done to throttle back how many novas are coming out? Or is this just a side effect of there being more and more novas? And this group, this fourth group, believes that there's enough evidence that there's something sinister going on with Project Utopia, that they're trying to do something about it. And they call themselves the Aberrant, because they are aberrations of how everything normally works, i.e., they are not subscribers to the Null Manifesto, but they don't agree with utopians, and they're not mercenaries. They are working for their goals. They're finding out the truth of what's going on. And so they are an aberration. They don't fit into the round hole. And that's where the name of the game comes from. This group. But there's other stuff going on. This is a game where, on the surface level, you can do it as the classic superhero game. You know, the whole, look at me, I'm a hero, I'm going to go fight big bad Terrigens. At the same time, you've got this whole conspiracy aspect to it. And then, of course, you've got the Extreme Warfare Federation. Basically, professional wrestling for novas. Or, should I say, mixed martial arts with superpowers. And that's big money. And at the same time, you've got these novas who are working for companies, doing all these good things. Or you have novas who are being sponsored by companies. Getting the names out there as these novas compete in various Nova-grade sporting events. So there's lots of ways a game like this can go. And Then you have something that's just beginning to be understood. Basically, as a nova channels the quantum energies, they will occasionally suffer backlash because the human body wasn't really meant to handle this, and novas are weird. And what happens is they start accruing something called taint. What taint is hard to describe. It's basically the quantum possibilities backlashing into them as they channel too much or use too much quantum energy. I mean, there are ways to bleed off some of it before it becomes too bad, but as they grow more powerful, as they do more and more things with their quantum abilities, with their nova powers, they start warping. Some of these could be physical issues, like odd-colored skin or various cosmetic effects. But then, towards the higher levels come the mental instabilities, schizophrenia, megalomania, hormonal imbalances towards rage and lust. And these start messing up with the novas. And basically it ends up that the more powerful a nova is, the more they can do. The more they do, the more mentally unstable they become. And you're playing one of these people. But that's another element of it. So you can play it dealing with this downward spiral, eventually leading to madness. You can play it dealing with a conspiracy, trying to unravel the truth. You can play it as a classic superhero game. You can do it superheroes with corporate espionage. All this stuff. And it's a different game. I don't think I've ever seen a superhero game or superhero world set up quite that way before. And that's always kind of carried with me. That's sort of this is the sort of game I want to see run. And who knows what the second edition is going to be like. I hope it keeps that kernel of optimism to it. But we won't know until it's released. But with that said, that's all I really have to say for this week. Again, next week I will be talking about the systems and mechanics for this. So until then, I just like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.